There has been much talk in the European Parliament plenary session this week about the situation in Belarus. Once again, the neoliberal-dominated Parliament is looking for regime change, which these days usually starts with what they call targeted sanctions, which of course impact on the people a lot more than it does on the rulers. They also like to ignore the fact that sanctions are usually a breach of international law and cause a lot more harm than good. While Belarus may have a GDP per capita which is more than double that of Ukraine, there is a lot of unrest in the country and massive protests have taken place following elections, which many people believed were rigged and unfair. The police brutality in reaction to the protests should be condemned, just as we should condemn it all over the world, including in the US, France and Western-backed regimes like Chile and Bolivia. Belarus retains many of the old Soviet structures. The state still controls a lot of public services and much of industry. Health and education are still free, but today it is a capitalist country and does have inequality just like most European countries. Lukashenko has been in power for 20 years, much too long, and is well past his sell-by date. The dictator did well to stop the sell-off of state assets at the beginning of his reign, when Yeltsin was destroying Russia, selling everything and anything for peanuts at the prompting of the US. And the standard of living in Belarus has generally been better than many of its neighbours. But now it's probably true to say that a large portion of the population want rid of him. But if this is to happen in a positive way for the people of Belarus, it is paramount that they do it themselves without Western interference. The lessons of Ukraine should not be forgotten, where an illegal US organised coup in 2014 has been detrimental for the people of Ukraine since. US aid and the CIA offspring, the National Endowment for Democracy, have been preparing the ground for the anti-Lukashenko protests in Belarus. The NED spending close to $3 million over the last few years, training youth activists, strengthening NGOs and funding anti-Lukashenko media. This is not what the people of Belarus need. They might want rid of their dictator Lukashenko, but they don't need the West interfering to promote their own financial interests and the ambitions of NATO, which are never good. Too often the Western countries engage in regime change in less powerful nations. It might further Western financial interests, but not the interests of the people. Western interference in a sovereign nation is a breach of the UN Charter and a breach of international law. If the people of the European Union really do care about the people of Belarus, and I'm not convinced that they do, they would stop using humanitarian intervention to advance their economic and strategic interests. And any moves to propose Tikhanovskaya as the real leader of Belarus would amount to the same laughable nonsense as recognising the gobshite Juan Guaido as the president of Venezuela. Spare the people of Belarus from such Western arrogance.